Probably the biggest step forward was on offense. So that was really good to see. But best we've played together this season so far. Defense gave another good effort out there, and special teams, for the most part, were pretty good. So that helps. And I think really the only low point that came in the game was in the initial part of the second half. We really didn't do a great job getting a stop when they had their first possession. Then we were 3 and out, I believe, and had the bad punt and then couldn't put the fire out. So that was kind of a low light there. And moving forward, and starting with this week, you got to be in the game 60 minutes and ready to go mentally that way. So that's kind of where that's at. But moving on to Purdue, first of all, just great respect for Coach Brom, his program, his players. They've done a wonderful job since he's gotten there. And, not just a matter of them being good offensively, which they are, but I think they've upgraded their program in all 3 areas. Obviously, they play really well defensively, on special teams, and, on offense as well. Needless to say there. So, and we haven't had much success last couple outings against them. So that's a goal of ours to try to change that. Big challenge on our hands. They're coming off a bye, so they should be well rested and well prepared. I'm sure they will be. And we're going on the road, so it's a road challenge for us. But again, I think we took a big step forward, and the whole idea now is to keep pushing forward and see what we can do. Certainly need to do that to be successful this week. Captains this week, same 4 guys. It seems like we're locked in here right now. Get Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, Kayvon Merriweather, and Riley Moss in alphabetical order. Injuries, nothing really new to report. Got a couple guys banged up from the game the other day. Hopefully they'll be ready to roll here by the end of the week. But, like any time this year, you're going to have some guys out. And then just a couple congratulations to extend, and we'll move on. But Drew Stevens being freshman of the year, freshman of the week this week. Big Ten freshman of the week, good to hear that. And then Jack Campbell, it's almost old news now, 6 days later, being a finalist for the Campbell Award, Campbell Trophy, and being named to the National Football Foundation award winners. Just a very, very prestigious thing. And, the Campbell Trophy is all about character, leadership, academic accomplishment, and Jack certainly embodies all those things on top of being a great football player. So really, very, very nice and worthy honor for him. And then last but not least, our kid captain, Carver Miners, is an 8-year-old from Polk City, had open heart surgery first week of his life, and is now an 8-year-old doing really well, active in sports, active in school, and told he and his family did a book drive for the Stead Family Children's Hospital this past winter, and collected 400 books for the hospital. So just a great young guy, and we'll be thinking about him certainly over the weekend. Looking forward to this challenge, and hopefully we'll see improvement with our team this week, and keep pushing forward. And I'll throw it out for questions.
First of all, to clarify on nothing new, I'm assuming that means no Roberts, no Dunker, and no Keegan.
Dunker might have a chance. He's supposed to get back on the field tomorrow, so we'll have to see what he looks like. But yeah, we'll see. The other guys, not that don't foresee that coming right now.
Have you had many hamstring issues that have ever approached what Keegan Johnson's dealt with?
Yeah, he's had a series of injuries. It's not just one thing, but most recently it's been the hamstring. So, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about Ohio State's number 11 played against us. I don't know why I heard this or read this, but somewhere after last week's game, I think he re-injured his. So I think he's played in 3 games. The hamstrings are just funny. There are a lot of bad injuries to have. That might be the worst as far as I can tell. But yeah, they can be really frustrating.
So this is the second straight year you're facing Purdue coming off a bye. I mean, they're obviously a program that gives you guys some fits of sorts. Does that add to the curiosity of what might be going on behind closed doors? Obviously, they pulled out the 3-quarterback thing last year.
Yeah.
And is it a weird thing that...
First of all, I wasn't even aware of that. So I'm more aware of their players on the field. I'm more worried about them. But, yeah, I mean, there's always quirks in our schedule, it seems like. And we're not the only ones that experience that. I think somebody's pretty public about that. I thought I heard a couple weeks ago. And I don't read the papers very much, but I did hear that, a little chatter. But there's nothing you can do about it. And I don't know how impactful it is. Bye weeks, I was talking to one of the younger guys earlier in the week about best time for a bye week, and it's, never quite sure. Sometimes, if you're just banged up, really banged up, it's a good thing. You go back to 2002, it's probably the best thing in the world that we didn't have one until the end of the season, because we were really, really had good momentum, and sometimes they can be a bad thing too. So these guys have been playing well, and I expect they'll play well Saturday, so we're not thinking too much about that.
Aiden O'Connell strikes me as a different kind of quarterback than the rest of the Big Ten West. What really stands out sort of about his game or your analysis of him?
He's an outstanding passer. Obviously, he's experienced. He's a 6-year player. He's had great success against, really good competition. I'd probably get more exposure in the summertime. I was listening to a guy who does a talk show on Saturday mornings, going to get a cup of coffee, and this particular gentleman was like leading a Heisman campaign for him, and threw his stats out. I mean, they're awfully impressive. We saw firsthand what he can do. So, the combination, I think, of Coach Brom's offensive mind, everywhere he's been, they've been good offensively. They've scored points. And he's, I don't want to say he's the best passer in the conference, but he's certainly been the top echelon, that's for sure. And, we played a pretty good guy a couple weeks ago. So he's certainly in that, that stratosphere, if you will.
You've taken a few players out of the transfer portal, even from within conference. You've also lost a pretty good quarterback to the transfer portal before it was the transfer portal. That's 6 or 7 years ago. Were you surprised when one of your receivers, especially when Charlie, left as late as he did? And what's been the impact that he's had with Purdue since he's left here?
Well, he obviously, just look at the stats, he's playing well. He's a good football player, so that doesn't surprise us at all. Surprise, probably a strong word, because you just don't. I think, the way college football is evolving right now, if you're surprised by much that happens in terms of player movement and those types of things, probably shame on you there. Maybe, I don't know if surprise is the right word, but the timing, to me, if you would think a guy, if he's going to leave a program, he'd do it back in the wintertime so he could get somewhere, get there and, go through the spring practice and start learning the offense, that type of thing, and also their system, and then also get to know his teammates. But it doesn't seem like it's affected him. He's playing really well right now, and he's a good football player, and we're going to have to try to do a good job of defending him on defense, and then also, the special teams aspect.
How do you recruit and retain wide receivers when they can look at what Charlie Jones did, 21 catches all of last year, 14 games, and then takes off in a different program?
Yeah, I mean, we'll never know what would have happened if he was here. We saw him make great improvement, I thought, this spring, so we were really excited about that. And then he's not here, so there's not much you can say about that.
So when you see his numbers, though, do you ever say to yourself, maybe we should have used him more? Or is that easy to say in hindsight?
Well, I would argue he's a much better player now than he was. I thought he was much better at the end of spring practice. As a receiver, he's been upper echelon return guy. He's been really good. Obviously, that was very evident, going back to early 2020. But I think he's really progressed as a receiver. And I'm not saying he's a bad receiver then, but he's a much better one. It was much better in April.
Do you think this could negatively impact you from a recruiting perspective when it comes to receivers, when they see what he did when he was here versus what he's doing at Purdue?
We'll worry about that later on. Right now, we're just trying to worry about Purdue. But, it's hard to quantify all that stuff. And, again, I would just suggest, me personally, I think he's a better receiver, was a better receiver at the end of spring practice than he was at the start. Like a lot of our players grow and develop as they go through their careers. And, say something about Jack Campbell, talking about good players. He's a better player now than he was, 2 years ago, or going through every phase. So it's important. And, you think about Charlie, he started out in Maxwell. I don't know if he walked on up there. I think I heard that. But, he's a guy who's just done that and ascended. And I'll shift over to, I was talking to somebody about George Kittle, who, was a good player when he left here. I would argue he's a much better player now. So, good players ascend. That's part of the process.
What does he do well, and what do you see?
Charlie?
And how could he impact the game?
Well, we all saw he's fast, right? So, he's always been fast. You saw that as a return guy. Plays with, reckless abandon. He's very courageous and had good running skills, is very evident, and good judgment, obviously, as a receiver, a return guy. And, I think, to me, at least, again, this is one person's opinion, I think he just refined his game as a receiver with each phase. And it wasn't all in the spring, but it's been a process for him. And, obviously, he's playing really well right now. He's got a good quarterback throwing it to him, and, one of the better guys in the conference. And that's not to compare quarterbacks. I don't mean that by any means. And, he's just done a great job.
Is there one particular area for him to improve so much, to go from 21 catches to 70-some catches, one area that you saw in the spring for him to be that much better of a receiver?
Yeah, I don't know. He's playing well. He's playing well in a system where they throw the ball a lot, and they had a really good guy that graduated and got drafted. So he's kind of filled that void, I guess. I would say, I don't coach there. I don't want to say he's that guy, but he seems to have, seems to be their most prominent receiver right now.
I know we can ask you this every week, but this would seem like a game where if you guys could run the ball and keep them off the field, their offense, that would be huge. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think it's good against any opponent if you can control the ball and keep the other team off the field. But when you talk about a team like Purdue, at least since Coach Brom's gotten there, obviously that's a really important thing to do because, and then they can get down the field pretty quickly when they have to. It's not like they're restricted to long drives. But they're just a really good offensive football team. They've played pretty much that way throughout the season, and if we could hold on to the ball, it'd be great. But if you look at the Wisconsin game, their most recent game, Purdue still had more possession time than Wisconsin, so it's not the full answer, but at least it's part of the answer for sure.
Kirk, we've talked a lot this season about just finding some sort of stability and momentum on the offensive line. I know you touched on after Saturday moving Connor back to left guard. I mean, do you kind of feel like the line right now is as stable as it's been all season? And just can you talk about now that a few days have gone by, what did you kind of see on film that stuck out?
Yeah, as crazy as it sounds, I think we learned a little something in the Ohio State game and maybe gained a little traction. I mean, there wasn't a lot good there from the offensive standpoint, but I think making the moves that we did make, I think, at least what we did Saturday, I don't want to say we're settled in right now, but that's probably where we're at right now. And, so I think you learn about your players with each and every opportunity. Connor looks a little bit more comfortable in there, and he's a good football player. So, our objective is to get him where he can play his best, and I think that's probably where he'll be. And, Steven's the same way. We're going to keep him at one position. He's so young. And then we got some flexibility with, Plum can go either side. DeYoung can go in and out. So that's probably about the end of the discussion right there. That's where we're at.
I was going to ask about Steven, so I know you brought him up, but you went with him, I think, week one. This is a redshirt freshman. I know he's highly recruited, but what did you like about him? And he's had some rough moments, but he's obviously stayed in there for you guys. What do you trust and what do you like about him?
Well, I think he's got so many characteristics that you're looking for with a lineman. The biggest thing he's trying to overcome, in my opinion, and it's interesting, we brought 6 linemen in a year ago, only 2 of them practiced last year, basically. And he was one of the guys that was in that 4 group. So it's really like he's a true freshman right now, and I think that's the biggest challenge right now. There's just a lot coming at him, but he's handling pretty well. I think we're at a point right now, at least maybe we can give him a little bit of a break in there and, take some pressure off him with rotation, that type of deal. But he's done a lot of good things, so we're just going to try to keep building. He's improved with every week, and but every day is a learning experience, and the rest of the season will be that way for him.
I'm not sure if this got to your desk or not, but there was an ESPN report over the weekend that said your offensive line. Other coaches had said your offensive line was soft. Pretty prominent report.
Yeah. No, it didn't make it to my desk.
Okay, so that's what they said.
Unnamed sources, or they name? Did they give names?
I think it was opposing teams you played or something. I think said that. Unnamed.
Yeah, right. They didn't sign that.
I guess just what is your assessment? Has the offensive line been a little too soft?
I'd say we've been inexperienced and inconsistent. That's what I would say, and that's what I was kind of alluding to with those. Just use that freshman class for an example. You got 6 guys, 4 in practice. The way you get better is practice football. Going back to the original discussion about the transfer student, and that's how you get better. You got to play football and practice football and be out there, especially in the lines. And experience really helps too. Age helps typically. Talked about Bo. He's a young guy, but he's uncommonly strong and physical for a guy his age. But most linemen, it's a journey. It's a journey. At least the ones I've been around, and whoever could use whatever term they use. I use the word inexperienced, and not good enough at this point. But I think we made strides, and last year at this time we really started to gain some ground. I'm hoping that's going to happen this year too. But it's hard to get better if you're not on the field. It really is hard.
So when you look at Northwestern and even Rutgers,
Let me interject too. I'll just go back because I'm just trying to think about a guy. Like, DeYoung's been out there, but DeYoung hasn't been full speed. And that affects performance, at least I've been. And if we had guys that were healthy and full speed, we'd have men there. But, you play with the guys you have. And that's, again, when all the shots are getting fired, I'm just sitting back knowing what I know. And, all we can ask our guys to do is the best they can do. And I think they've done a pretty good job of that. Hopefully we'll be less soft in the future, and maybe more experienced, a little bit more able to control tempo, because when you can do that, you're really in business, and that's what every coach hopes for.
so with Northwestern and to a lesser extent maybe Rutgers, it feels like you controlled the line of scrimmage a lot better than you did in the other Big Ten games. Is it just as simple as that when Spencer has more time? And
It's a big. I think it's a big part of it. The offenses I've been around, it's easier to play offense if you can control the line. That's awesome, and if you can at least break even, that's awesome too. And we haven't always been able to do that. And they're getting excellent coaching. That's one thing I do know a little something about. And George is an outstanding coach, and they're good young guys. I mean, these guys are working hard and they're trying their tails off. So, but sometimes you gotta learn the hard way too, and that's called education.
At 1-7, Northwestern's obviously not going to be your toughest opponent of this year, but how much of what Spencer finally did right on Saturday do you expect to be able to transfer into these next 4 games?
I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's kind of, making assumptions about teams. As I said a week ago, when I looked at Northwestern, they had one game they weren't in. Other than that, there was 10 points or less every game, and then they won a game, so conference game. So I looked at a team I had a lot of respect for, and just like I mentioned, we haven't had a lot of success against Purdue the last couple of years. It's not like we've been just knocking Northwestern around either, so we had a lot of respect going into that game, still do. It's an excellent program. They got good young players that work hard. But it just, when all phases are contributing, it sure makes it easier. And, some players can win games on their own, I suppose, but it makes it a lot easier if you got some help in all phases. Starting up front's a great place, but somebody's got to catch the ball. Somebody's got to run routes, catch the ball. Somebody's got to be able to run it. So to me, when I look at offenses, it's typically that. If you got a guy like Mahomes, that's awesome. But I'd also say I think he played on a 6-6 or a 5-7 college team as a senior. As good as he is, he couldn't lift that team. I don't think they went to a bowl game, which just blows your mind if you think about it. It still takes a team to get things done.
Well, in general, with the things that Spencer was doing right on Saturday, even when you take away the records and such, how much of that do you expect to carry over into these next 4 games?
Depends how we play around him. I mean, we got to help him, and he's able to get his feet set, and had a little time to do what he had to do and get the ball where he had to get it. And probably I don't know if it's his best play, but one of the plays I enjoyed the most was when he pulled it down and ran and then dumped it off to Monty. That's it's not a signature play for him necessarily. Just talk about Mahomes. But if a guy can do something like that, that really helps the cause too, because it's tough to keep that pocket clean every play, every time you drop back.
Getting into the rivalry part of the season, really, you guys have Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nebraska coming up. Would you put Purdue in that same conversation as those other rivals?
Yeah, I mean, every game's a rivalry game. Every game in college football, single elimination as far as I'm concerned. And we're also in conference. So, conference games, if you belong in a conference, they have that extra significance too. So we're not looking at the conference race by any stretch right now. We're just looking at this week. And, for our team right now, I mean, we're fighting for our lives. So we're just trying to, make incremental gains. And that's the way it's been each and every week. And, we took some strides last week, so we're right back trying to do the same thing this week.
Looking at Purdue's offense in totality, what about their scheme makes it challenging for a defense, and how would you just describe that chess match over the last several years between your defense that prides itself on preparation and an offense that seems to have a good game plan?
Well, again, I talk about Coach Brom's career, wherever you want to go. When he's a player, he was awfully good, and his coaching experience as assistant, and then also Western Kentucky, Purdue, they've always been very, productive offensively, scored points, made yards. And I think probably the one thing that comes to mind, I mean, they run the football as well as throw it and run it effectively. They've got a back who's doing a really nice job for them. And then they get everybody involved in the passing game. Their tight end's a really good receiver, but they've got a good group of receivers, not just one guy. I'm not saying it's the same as Ohio State, but Ohio State had a lot of guys across the board that really did a good job. So it makes it a real challenge. And, that's kind of where it all starts. And then a veteran quarterback who's been, very, very productive.
You've had, I don't know, historically there have been some, I would say, contentious recruiting rivalries, if you will, between like Minnesota forever, Illinois, and Michigan State prominently maybe about 10 years ago. Considering I think you had 6 guys visit here in June that ended up, and then from Indiana, and 4 ended up going to Purdue, and 2 committed to you. Would you put that in a contentious category or just a really good offseason competition with Purdue?
Yeah, it's competition. I think anytime you go across state boundaries, which we do a lot because of our population, anytime you leave your state, you're always, you're climbing a hill. You would assume the home state schools at least have an advantage. In some cases, that's not the case, but most times it is. You just kind of make that assumption, and so we travel over there. You got to beat Indiana and Purdue on a player. Notre Dame's a little separate category, and it's the same way any state we go into. You usually start with that home state school or the home state schools as a starting point. So. Yeah, and ultimately recruiting just gets down to a guy, feeling like, hey, the fit is good for him. So there are some people that know off the bat, Iowa, no, Purdue, Indiana, yeah, want to stay home, that type of thing. And that's what you hope for as a in-state recruiter, but it's not always that way.
How much better are they now than what they were maybe in Jeff's first year or before as far as competing in Indianapolis for players?
Talking about recruiting or football?
Recruiting.
Well, they've had success as a program, and there's a period there. Once Joe Tiller left, there was a real drop-off, and that's a huge advantage recruiting-wise. If your team's not doing well, the program's not strong. It's not a knock on anybody. It's just what it is, and so that was a good time to be there. Now their program's very strong. He's done a great job building that thing, and again, it's not just an offensive deal. It's a whole program, and so again, we have great respect for them and know it's going to be tough, just like any state we go into. Typically in the Big Ten, it's going to be tough because a lot of good programs right now.
Coach, pretty broad question, but why do you guys do so well on offense on Saturday?
Well, again, I just think pride started up front. Our line blocking was a little bit better than it's been this year. For the most part, there were some games where we flashed, but I just thought we played better in the run and pass up front, and then skill guys did a good job as well. Tight ends are playing really well. Both Sam and Luke are doing a good job there. Receivers did their job and did a nice job. The backs ran well, and Spencer played well. So it's just, it's kind of how offense works.
Kirk, I was, thinking back to the offseason, everybody talked about the linebackers, everybody talked about the secondary. It feels like the defensive line was almost third fiddle despite returning 7 players that played 200 snaps. Just wondering, after that performance on Saturday, how would you assess the growth of just the line as a whole? It seems like they're getting to the quarterback more consistently, different guys stepping up across the board.
Yeah, I felt pretty good about the group really coming into the season last year. We had graduated some guys, so last year, we were young and thought those guys really gained traction. This year, Volk was the only guy we really lost. So, just kind of a collective effort. Felt like we had maybe 8 to 10 guys that had a chance to play pretty well, and it's kind of panned out that way. We've had some injury issues there too, but at least on that side, we've got some depth. We don't have that depth offensively, so that's been good for us. And I don't know what to call us, a no-name defense or whatever, but we got a bunch of guys just doing a good job, and Saturday's a good example. It's kind of been this way all season long. We've done a good job getting to the quarterback, but a lot of times those are coverage sacks. We do a good job in the back end where they don't have the easy throw. And, if you can do that, then it gives the guys a chance to get there up front if they work hard. And our guys do work hard. They go hard when they're out there, and we're able to rotate them so they stay pretty fresh too, which is an advantage.
How would you describe Barnett's?
Okay.
Me first?
Yeah, I'll come back here. Yeah.
Barnett's style, I've kind of heard is a little bit more cerebral maybe than Polasek was. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah.
I don't know, how would you describe?
They're just very different personalities. They're both good coaches, though. So, Tim's deal, he wanted to be a coordinator, which I understand, and I assume he felt it was better professionally. And he was a guy we were, transformed into a line coach, I guess, and I think that probably helped him a little bit. But, this is what George has done. George was kind of weaned on that, if you will, and I think he's an excellent teacher. It really jumped out in the interview, and he's been that way ever since. And obviously has the patience of a saint because it's been tough. It's been tough, and I've been there. I think I alluded to this. 1983, we graduated 7 seniors out of 10, which is not good. So that next year, we were in a very similar circumstance. You just work through it. A year later, we're in the Rose Bowl, with some pretty good senior linemen and seniors and juniors. So we got through it, and we did okay. But you just have to, keep working at it.
Do you see that's possible? A possibility, that you could...
Yeah, we're not exactly veteran up there. I think DeYoung's the oldest. Well, Jack and DeYoung are the 2 oldest guys, and so, these guys are all young guys with great futures, and they got good work ethics and all that. So it's just, they need work is what they need. So I think we got the right guys, but we're, like to get them to age a little faster, that's all.
What have been your impressions of Jay Higgins in the last month and a half filling in at that will spot?
No, I'm not surprised. He's doing a great job, and I'm not surprised. He's one of the guys, if there's ever a benefit of having guys out because of injury, last spring, we got to watch the backup linebackers, and Jay just really emerged the entire spring practice, again, talking about players developing and growth. So he's been good on special teams, but, we came out of spring ball, all of us as the coaches, I think, felt like, hey, this guy could start for us right now. He played really well Saturday and has been playing well. He's got a great personality. He's just a great team guy, and works extremely hard. So, we're thrilled to have him on our football team, and he's got a really good future. So I'm not surprised he's playing well right now.
Along the same lines of filling in, it's been several weeks since Castro's been at that catch spot. What are your impressions of him, and then also Cooper, who was kind of in between those 2 positions but has settled in at that corner spot with Terrio?
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now, and that's getting a little thin in that back end. But yeah, Sebastian's done a really nice job too, and he's again a guy we've been watching. He's done a good job on special teams. He's been ascending defensively, and so we got him locked into that role, and he's done a good job there. And Cooper is one guy that just has rare position flexibility, but we don't have much position flexibility because of our depth right now. So he's pretty much locked into the corner spot and doing a really good job there, and doing a great job on special teams too. He's a football player. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kirk.
Thanks, everyone.